The prepper in the box. I have an interesting story, true story, and this is about a prepper. And this prepper is on YouTube. Quite a few years ago, I think it was like 3 to 5 years ago, this prepper was watching another prepper. And he became an idol, literally. He wanted to do everything that prepper did. And he almost achieved it. He came close. He originally started, he had gotten a divorce from his wife after, I don't know how many years of marriage, quite a few, 25, 30, I don't know. And he'd bought some land, like 25 acres, with a friend. And he's never had kids. So this prepper also weighs 320 pounds. In his mind, he believed he was going to do what this other prepper did. He believed he was going to put one of those sheds up, you buy, and redo it. And he even went as far as begging and trying to get his subscribers to give him free stuff, just like this other prepper did. And it was quite interesting to watch this journey that he was doing. Now, a lot of times I'll watch preppers, and very rarely I'll write a comment. If I like it, I'll give it a thumbs up. I never give anybody a thumbs down. I just don't see a point to it. If I feel I'm going to, after 3 or 4 videos, I felt like, well, that's really not true, or whatever, I'll just unsub them. But he goes out and he buys this shed. And he buys it from the Amish. He paid $30,000 for this shed. It was made exceptionally well. He probably wanted to buy this shed because of how much he weighed. He wanted heavy-duty floors. I mean, after all, he doesn't want to fall through them. So he gets it insulated, but then apparently he runs out of money, he said. He talks one of his subscribers into sponsoring him, and this subscriber runs some type of, I don't know, I think it was like plumbing and stuff like that. This guy goes all out and buys great big vinyl signs and everything else, and shows up and wants to be in the videos, and I don't know, maybe he thought they were going to become millionaires on YouTube. Then he ended up having somebody come down and install a wood stove for him so he wouldn't freeze. They felt sorry for him, his subscribers, so they got him a wood stove. But he didn't put it in. I think the guy with the guy did plumbing and that put it in for him. So now he had an insulated shed with a wood stove. He had no running water. And he tried to live like this. And he was living like this for a good 3 months. He lived through a winter like that. It was kind of funny when he made a video because he was sitting there freezing, but yet he had a wood stove. He was so lazy and so overweight, he did not want to go out and cut wood. He had an axe, he had a saw. He even had a chainsaw. He just didn't want to get off his ass and go and do it. He wanted some sub to show up and do it for him, or somebody he had met up in this area he had moved to. I never seen anything like it. I just watched it and I was like, what's this guy doing? Now, when he bought land with a partner, his partner never ever showed up. His partner was always working too much. He had thought when he bought the 25 acres that his partner would be up there and he wouldn't be alone, and the two of them would be working together on this so-called homestead. It never went as he planned. Then all of a sudden, his life changed. I mean, he has a lot of stuff. He has a lot of guns, a lot of clips, a lot of ammo. I mean, he had quite a bit of stuff when it came to protecting himself. He'd even made videos of carrying like 15, 18 clips. And, I don't know, he acted like World War III was going to break out tomorrow. But yet he's never ever used them. So, all of a sudden, he comes across with a video that says, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to sell my shed. So he sells it back to the Amish because he bought it off the Amish originally, and he sold it back to them for half the price. So if it was 25, 30,000, whatever it was, he sold it back to them for 15. I was just like, I can't believe this. He was so close. I mean, he could have put a well in for what, 3, 4, 5? I mean, he would have had running water. He could have, I mean, yeah, he had to spend another 20 grand, but all he had to do was get a job. But he couldn't get a job. He was too overweight. Couldn't stand for any period of time. And I just kept shaking my head saying, the biggest mistake you made here was being 320 pounds and not being able to do anything for yourself. In his mind, he thought he could do it all because he watched this other prepper. This other prepper was his hero. Hero worshiping, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of that goes on with YouTube. And it just blew my mind away. But he didn't have that many subscribers. I mean, he only had 1,000, 2,000. He didn't have that many. But he still was able to find a few people to give him free money. He still found some people that would actually come out and do things for him. He didn't have to do nothing. Later, he'd gotten the idea that, well, I'll offer a piece of my land if anybody wants to rent a spot, and they can put a trailer there. And I was like, he did find a person. And they showed up at their trailer, and they cut trees down. I mean, they worked their ass off to put that in there. Shortly after, you heard nothing about that anymore. Probably because he had told the guy he's going to sell the land. So he sold off the so-called shed for half the price that everybody else seemed to work on. And then he sold off his land, and he kept maybe a half acre. And then he went and bought a travel trailer that he paid probably 20 grand for, and he put it on the lot. So he's living rent-free in a travel trailer. But he still has no running water, and he still has no way. He has to call a truck in to pump out his septic tank in his trailer. He's single, so he really doesn't have to call him that often. Over 3 years, this guy hasn't worked. He must have one hell of a bank account. But I watched him come out of the gate strong. And then within a year, because he didn't want to get a job, because he didn't want to get off his lazy ass, he failed. And it just blew my mind away. Can you imagine helping somebody out and all the work you did, they just sold it? How that would make you feel. He ended up having some church come down, and for some reason they wanted to offer. They came in with about 5 or 6 guys, and they boarded up the inside for the insulation that was put up. Again, he didn't do nothing but stand there and make a video. Fast forward to now. Well, now he says he sleeps 20 hours a day and really doesn't get up and do much. He ended up getting blood clots in his legs, and he says that a clot could make it to his heart and kill him any time. He says he's given up. He's been defeated. He is now losing weight. Now he's gone from 320 down to 230, 225. He's slowly losing weight. He also went on a tattoo kick where he decided to put all kinds of tattoos on him, and he's like, I don't know, 55? Out of the blue. He talks about not having a woman, how depressing that is. He sounds very, very, very lonely. Every step of his journey was a failure. And it started with not being healthy. He didn't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. He didn't have to work out. I mean, but you can't be 320 pounds and expect your body not to slow you down and put it into it. It's nice to see he's looking into his weight and he's losing weight now. But his future is very bleak. He's also suing somebody. I think he used to work in a jail, and I think he's suing them. He's been suing them for quite a few years, and he's expecting some big cash amount of money to get from that, a settlement. And when I've listened to him talk, he'll say, "Oh, I'm probably going to get a double wide or a bigger travel trailer." And now he's talking about moving to Texas. He says since he moved where he is in Tennessee, he has not been very happy. He's a strange man. He really is. Especially how he acts online. He acts quite sexual. Asks his subscribers to call him daddy, and I'm like, very, very weird. And then he tries to give people advice. He tries to say, you need to put caches out. You need to carry this. You need to carry that. He's lucky to walk from the car to his travel trailer. I just, unbelievable. You're going to sit there and give advice when you had prepper envy, I guess you could call it. And you followed another prepper to trying to duplicate everything he did. You even begged, thinking this was okay. It really just out there. But there are many people on YouTube that will follow a certain prepper or a YouTuber. I mean, as some people have told me, YouTube is a mini Hollywood, is what it is. And some people become very, very popular, and people worship them. And I've never quite understood that. I don't know if they feel something good's going to happen by throwing their money their way or by volunteering. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen a prepper recently buy land in West Virginia. Some might know who I'm talking about. And that person even made a video on, come work out at my homestead for free, at least 1 week in a month. This guy, all he's ever done is cut wood with an axe and throw gravel. And I don't doubt he'll get them to come out for free. If they're not taking their money, they're getting to work like slaves for free. It's just, especially when they start talking in certain ways. We need to come together as a group. We're a family. Really. I'll tell you what. You give me $5,000 and I'll sell you a spot in my bunker for when shit hits the fan. Guaranteed. And if shit never hits the fan, well, thank you for the new camera. I mean, ridiculous. But the prepper in the box. I watched him waste so much money, and it was unbelievable. When I built my bunker, I built it a little bit of time. I paid cash. I worked like a dog. There was a time when I had the walls, the floor, and everything in, but I never had the ceiling in, and it went almost a year. It seemed like every time I turned around, every time I saved up the money, something took it away. And it was not cheap to pour the concrete on the roof of this bunker. I had to buy the concrete. The guy wanted a lot of money. I almost came to the point where I almost called a dump truck in to just fill the hole in and say, piss on it. I tried. I'm done. I came very close. But I did, and I stuck it out, and it got completed. But what I didn't understand about the prepper in the box, he sold his house when he divorced his wife, and yes, he had a chunk of change. But why he kept spending it, I'll never know. He brought bulldozers in to level things. He brought in gravel. He put the shed in. I mean, the waste of money I ever seen somebody spend. It was almost like he thought he was Rockefeller or something. And why he bought some shed from the Amish for 25, 30,000. I'm sorry, the Amish are not always they're not always very cheap. A lot of times the Amish are quite expensive for a lot of things they sell. The other thing I never understood, well, he had the land. I mean, he had the money because he paid cash for it. Why didn't you just bring in 2 or 3 guys to frame in a shed? It would have been way cheaper than having one brought in that you drive on a truck. A lot of things he did never made sense to me. Never did. So now he's in a travel trailer, sleeping 20 hours a day. He's extremely depressed. Once in a while, he'll put a video up. And anybody that types in the chat, when he does a live feed, they could just say hello. And they're getting banned or timed out. I mean, they think everybody's a troll after them. It's just unbelievable. There might be 6 people that talk to him anymore, where he used to have probably close to about 80 to 100 people. So he has no idea what he's doing. I would say depression has moved in, especially when you're sleeping 20 hours a day. And it's very, very sad what his journey turned into, because he thought some prepper was a star. He got to meet his prepper star, and that guy didn't even really want anything to do with him. He was actually traveling through, and he drove quite a ways to meet him. I think it was a truck stop, a rest stop, or something like that, and he just kept going. He didn't stop to meet him. I thought that was unbelievable. He'd said in a recent video that he feels like a lone prepper, and he says, and I know I've told everybody not to be a lone prepper because you're going to die, and he says, I can't have it. I figured out I don't like people. It's extremely depressing what's happened to him. And that's before shit hit the fan with anything. So, choices are important. And making the right choice is important, especially with your finances. Following preppers and making them stars, obviously, is foolish. You should worry about your own life. There are certain things you can spend money on that are safe to spend money on. No matter what, you'll be okay. You know, like buying canned food or stuff like that. That's something you'll always use, so that's something you really can't screw up. But when you start buying land and you start saying, I'm going to run a homestead and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to weed that garden and I'm going to have those goats and I'm going to get out there and play farmer, and you're coming from the city and you don't have a clue what you're doing, one thing is for sure, you will fail. As human beings, we fail. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you put your pack on and go camping overnight at nighttime. You are going to fail, especially if it's your first time. So you better compensate for those failures that are going to come. And those failures are going to cost you money. It's just the way it goes. When you run a business, there are things you fail at when you run a business that cost you money. You could go spend $10,000 on advertising that totally flops, and you'll be like, geez, that was a waste of money. Happens all the time. When you run a business, that's a gambling game. I know, I run one. And there are mistakes that happen that cost you money. Whenever you do anything new, it's going to cost you money. And that's just the way it is. And I watched his journey, and he came out excited, happy, proud. In the beginning, he put a shed in. He bragged how much it was, how well it was made. It was the best thing since sliced bread. But when he did get the travel trailer, you seen it in his face. He had been defeated, and he said, oh my God, everybody's got to buy a travel trailer. This is the way to go. I have everything. I have heat. I have air. Oh my God. He did learn some important lessons. Could he spend a night out in the wilderness? Probably not. Being realistic on who you are, how old you are, and the direction you're going is very, very important. That's for sure. The prepper in the box failed. Don't be the prepper in the box. Don't look at some preppers and think, I want to be like that person. Be yourself. Do yourself. And take it slow. And when you come across big investments like land or things like that, land's okay because you can always resell it. So keep that in mind when you're getting into big investments and you think you can go ahead and do this. You might not be able to. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Really think about the prepper in the box. Don't be him. Catch you guys later.